All right, everyone. Happy Friday. It's another edition of Q&A with Alan and Marshall. And I'm Marshall Atkinson with Atkinson Consulting.
I'm Alan Howe with Easy Way Systems.
And thank you so much for joining us today. So if you're hopping in, what we would really like you to do is a couple things. The first thing is to say hello. So in the comments, could you please let us know who you are, where you're watching from, what's going on. And then the thing we really would love you to do is can you share that you're watching this right now, because we want all of your friends to watch us too. So please share. And then later, we're going to be talking and have lots of questions and comments. We want you to make sure that you're comfortable in asking questions. That's what this is about. It's a Q&A show. And we need the Q part so we can do the A part.
Absolutely. And, while we have topics not etched in stone, your questions, it's all about you.
Yeah, you want to know about emulsion or workflow or employee problems or equipment or whatever, chime in, okay? We just use the questions, the topics, as like the starter stuff to get things going. So,
just so we don't have dead air.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, so just before we get going with our special guest today, Lon Winters. So Alan, you did some traveling this week. Where did you go and what did you see?
I was out of Youngstown, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, around that area. A client of mine just had a Lotus Holland put in, so it was Easy Way. We were there on site with chemical, charging that up, and just a great time. Went to one of our dealers, Tech Support's screenprinting supplies in Pittsburgh, who I actually used to work for. So it was real good being back there. Just starting a year out, and a lot of talks of what can we do? What do we, what's going on in the industry? What are you seeing in your market, and what can do? Was with my boss, Alex Mimoser, who actually will be a guest in 2 weeks.
That's right.
Actually, next week.
Is it next week?
The 22nd.
I have it written down somewhere. Yeah, it's on my whiteboard.
It's on my whiteboard. I had to look up for it.
Yeah, so, you only got 8 things on your whiteboard. I've got like hundreds. I have to look for
it. 4.
All right. So anyway, that's fantastic. So here's the thing: you travel and you're going and seeing and whatever, and I think right now people need to be comfortable with that, right? What is your thought on that a little bit? And I know that you're very cautious and safe about the things that you do, right? So can you kind of talk to about that a little bit? Because I think the trust that we need to be able to travel just really isn't there right now for a lot of people. What do you think?
And this goes beyond just seeing customers. You got to know each state, what are their protocols, what do they have going on? Because this has to do with whether you're flying, whether you're in hotels, whether you're with that customer. And I have to, when I'm seeing a client and setting appointments, I am asking right up front, nobody's offended. What are your protocols? You know what? I had one guy said, "You're welcome to come in." He goes, "I'm going to ask that you wear a mask." Perfect. Always do. Carry them with us. We have them. I keep and for me personally, I have mask. I have neck gaiters. I have hand sanitizer in the car. I have latex gloves, just in case.
Do you have like a full body hazmat suit too?
I haven't yet. But, part of that is for me, but part of that is I want the client I'm seeing being comfortable.
Right.
And I want to follow their protocols. Whether I have an opinion, my opinion needs to go out the door there. Yeah. I am their guest in their place. So we have to remember that.
So it's kind of like reverse hospitality. You want to make
exactly it.
Yeah.
I think in also hotels are different. They are doing great, I think. You're not going to get the everyday maid service anymore. They don't do that.
I don't like that anyway. Personally.
Yeah, I'm okay with it when they do, but they are trying to. I stay at a lot of Hampton Inns, a lot of Hilton properties and Marriott's, and what Hilton properties do. Once the door is clean and sanitized, there's almost like a little seal on the door that says it's been cleaned. If that seal's broken, they know someone's in there, needs to be cleaned, when they're done. But yeah, so you just have to know what's going on. Most hotels won't let you in without a mask, which is fine. Need to be.
Yeah,
And
good.
so you have to know. I think the companies are doing what they need to do.
Right.
They're being very accommodating. If you need towels and stuff, they're going to come, leave it at your door.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool. So let's say hi to somebody, some folks
Absolutely.
that are saying hello, and then let's bring Lon on. Okay, so Josta's watching from Sweden, so thank you so much for saying hello. And Richard's here, and Daniel's here. Brian Buffka's here. Good morning.
Morning, Brian.
I still need to watch your wife's thing. I was too busy to do that yesterday. So, hey, by the way, can you share the link for that? Because I think a lot of people will get a kick out of it.
What is it he's sharing so we know?
So his wife, Myra, was on BNI thing, right? And all about being in business. And I think his daughter was on it as well, right?
Wonderful.
So,
great.
Really cool. And Sean says, happy lunchtime, everyone.
How you doing, Sean?
I'm skipping over Daniel's question and going to Daryl. Good morning, Daryl. And Charles says, good morning.
Morning, Charles.
Ray says hello. And Alan says hello too. Right. So
2 from North Georgia Promotions. Way to go.
Right. So why don't you introduce our guest and then I'll click them in.
I am excited about this. It's our first guest. As we said, we're going to be doing more of them, probably 2 a month. And I am honored to have Lon Winters here. If you don't know Lon, at the age of 21, Lon started his first production manager position with Ocean Pacific, OP Apparel. A lot of us remember that. He has won more than 50 international awards for printing, awards and honors. He served 15 years as an honorary Golden Image judge. I've done that also, which is a great honor when they ask you to judge. I haven't done it 15 years, though. So he's written hundreds of articles and columns, led a multitude of industry seminars and workshops, and consulted on projects large and small throughout the world. He is an industry consultant. He's a master creative problem solver. He's also president and founder of Colorado-based Graphic Elephants, which is an international consulting firm and apparel decoration studio. Right there out of just outside of Denver. Actually, quite a ways out of Denver, but we'll just say Denver. I was honored to serve with him as he was chairman of the Garment Decorators Committee for SGIA. And I know, Marshall, you and I are proud to stand with him. In 2013, he was inducted into the Academy of Screenprint Technology.
Right.
So let's bring on Lon Winters. We know him as a consultant, an author, and one of my first, Lon, I think I told you this when I first met you. One of the first things I learned from you is before I met you, you did a couple videos, or maybe it was a seminar. I think I told you made specialty printing look easy, not scary. It was the first thing. And I was watching some things you did, and I go, that's incredible. But, one of the reasons I wanted to have you, Lon, on is I don't know if you remember a few years ago, you were at an event Marshall hosted at Inksoft called Max Profit. Yeah. I was speaking, and you guys know, Marshall, I told you I was terrified. One, because I think I had to follow Mark Coudray, which I don't know how that happened. But the speakers were Marshall, me, Mark Coudray, Tom Rowan. The scary part for me was in the audience was not only Lon, but Richard Greaves and Greg Kitson and Scott Fresner and all these incredible printers. And I'm like, excuse me, everybody who's won an award, raise your hand. Please leave the room now. If you're in the academy, follow them. But Lon, you and I had a discussion there, and I just looked at you and asked you and said, why are you here? And I don't know if you remember this, and you looked at me and you said, Alan, I have a printing business. If I don't change the way we do it and look at new markets and figure this out, I'm not going to have a business. And for all the accolades, all the awards, all the face recognition that we have, you are still a printer and still have a business to run first and foremost. And I think that's what we're going to talk about. And it's not always the cool graphic elephant print that is out there that we see. And you've designed and printed the SGIA shirt for many years. But this has been a tough year and a year for everybody. So
for sure. You mentioned that, and we've been in a bit of a change in our model since that point. That was kind of one of the first moments of clarity for our business, and knowing that being a great printer or being a great decorator maybe wasn't enough. And I'd like to think we still do a pretty good job on the decoration piece of it.
Yep.
But in the grand scheme of things, I put ink on shirts, and I'm not real good at the running the business, the sales and marketing piece of it. And other people are, and I can learn from them. And at that point, I kind of said, I need to quit talking so much and do a little more listening. And that's when we joined Catalyst and a lot of things to try to, sharpen the skills that we weren't so good at. It has nothing to do with stencil thickness or ink deposit, and everything to do with keeping the doors open.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough year. So for all of us, and I'm sure this year just was the same thing going, oh my gosh, are we going to make it? Like everybody.
Before we get into some of our topics, Lon, if maybe there's people out there that really don't know a lot about you, can you just share your shop, square footage, how many autos, your number of employees, kind of like, and who your market is, just so that everybody kind of is all grounded in what you do with your shop, not as an author or a consultant?
Somewhere around 15 years ago, we reconfigured what is now Graphic Elephants. I had been a minority partner owner in a factory called Graphic Elements, and Graphic Elements was majority owned by 55 resort retail stores. And as the story may go, the wife divorced the husband, took 60% of the most profitable stores, blah, blah, blah. Graphic Elements was profitable to the last day the doors were open. The problem was the stores were like the Titanic taking down a life raft. So we built Graphic Elephants. The idea was to take everything that was good from Graphic Elements and build something new. The days of having 100 employees, 7 days a week, 3 shifts, that's a young man's sport. I never want to do that again. Young person sport, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And there are some great production managers out there. I just can't do it at that level. I can teach people. Giving the grandkids a bunch of sugar and then sending them home. I can go home and sleep at night. So we took what was Graphic Elements, took some of the best people. Jason's been my right-hand man for over going on 25 years probably.
Sure.
Super talented, super loyal, does everything the way he learned from me. So whether it's right or it's wrong, it's consistent. So he's very talented and been very good to me and our families, to each other. And I certainly couldn't be here without him. But he was with me at Graphic Elements. The two of us built Graphic Elephants. The name came from the play on elements, of course, but we also used to tease receptionists that we would hire at Graphic Elements. When you answer the phone, don't say elephants, and they could never get it right. So Graphic Elephants came from kind of some fun days. And so when we built it, it started out as kind of this, we're going to support the industry. We're going to do development, R&D, benchmarking, beta testing, alpha testing. And the first 6 months or so, we did pretty well. We hit a couple of home runs with some overseas clients that we were building factories and then doing test printing and sampling for them as we were building these factories. So the merge of the printing facility, the decorating facility with the consulting was perfect. The problem was those dried up, and suddenly our model had to change. And, we need to be doing some full package work. So we've built the business into, we try to stay out of the contract business. We were in that business with Elements, and it was overwhelming for the return on dollars.
Yeah.
And we're much smaller. We have 3 machines. We have embroidery. We have some transfer. We have DTG, but it's compressed. It's a much smaller operation. So the contract model didn't fit anymore. So our model becomes full package, and our full package kind of expands a little bit because of the design capabilities and, again, the talent that we have. Corey's another right-hand man who's our best illustrator, best separator by far. With that talent, our full package starts at the concept. So we can conceptually build and design and create lines or images or whatever it happens to be, and take it all the way through. When we say full package, that's the bagging and tagging and drop shipping. So we have a number of full package clients that do line development to even individual. We work in some construction industries as well as some mechanical cars and stuff, and they have their own branding that we help kind of push them a little bit with their, instead of Bob's Towing, one color left chest, we give them, let's do some sugar for the ladies, let's do some. So these guys are pushing their brand out by providing swag for their customers. So it's turned into a nice little business model for us.
Okay, that's great. So let's get to some questions and comments, and then we're going to get into our topic. So Dan Solomon says, a question for Lon: how many customers have tripped over the boat trailer tongue while visiting your shop?
Most. That was part of the deal when we built the building, and those of you that don't know, our building is on our property. So the last financial crisis, as Graphic Elements was sinking, mm-hmm. we took the opportunity to sell everything and buy a piece of property outside of Elizabeth, Colorado, where the game plan was to build our dream house and our building on the same property. So I have about a 50-foot walk to go to work in the morning. Jason, on the other hand, has an hour drive.
I know the first time I visited you, Lon, you invited me there. I drove in from Denver, and address is in the navigation system. I called you and you go, "You here?" I go, "I don't know. I'm in a subdivision." Yeah. Come up the drive and then back. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a blessing for us. But part of the deal was my wife and I grew up water skiing and wakeboarding. My kid was wakeboarding at 5 years old with boots up past her knees, and
sure.
That's our thing. We've got a Mastercraft wake boat that we've got way too much money into. And part of the deal when we built the building was the boat goes in the building, and it's set up as a drive-through and the whole bit. So the boat doesn't leave. I'm not paying storage. It's staying right there. The problem is the way it's designed is sort of sticking right as the man door when you walk in. If you're not paying attention, you can take a shin buster.
Yeah. That's funny.
Dan's been here, so he may have done it himself.
Yeah. So, by the way, Brian says that his wife was on Christine Shreve's Women Plus Business podcast, and he shared the link. So please check that out. And thank you for sharing that, Brian. Dan also says Lon is very skilled at development. We've worked together on several silicone developments over the years, and he's been on market VOC for me. Always great at recording his control of the variables, which is so important.
Agreed.
And then Ray says, I think Lon's greatest ability is listening and remaining humble, even when he knows more than the person he is talking to. Laughing out loud, we use them whenever we can. And Charles actually has a real question.
Right now, we're just stroking.
I know.
When you are creating your underbase, do you have a go-to transparency level that you use, like 80%, or do you tailor that with every image? That's a good question, Charles.
Very good, Chris.
The latter. No matter how much and Dan raised the point, you have to control everything you can, but realizing, and I think I learned this as I was listening to mentors like Mark Coudray and Joe Clark, rest his soul, the control is absolutely critical. However, there's something about the hippie magic in this business that you can't take away to be successful. This is just my opinion. I would never argue with neither one of those great men as far as their the goal to control the variables. But I think as I was trying to wrap my arms around everything, I learned early that I'm not going to control absolutely everything. I can control the easy stuff, control the next hardest stuff. The more you get your arms wrapped around it, the more you try to control as much as possible, but then embrace the magic, embrace the voodoo. And part of that is being able to look at an image or being able to look at your intent and dialing it in, knowing you can control this, and this. And then you got to kind of guess your way through a couple of other things, and hopefully your instincts kick in. No matter whether I'm talking to my guys doing SEPs, if you don't think it's going to work, trust your instincts. That's my deal. Trust what you know, because I've done this. I look at SEPs and I go, that ain't going to work. I should probably run this first instead of that and change the print order. Well, this was the intent, and I go ahead and set it up, and yep, looks like shit, just what I thought. So it's each portion trusting your instincts and realizing that you can't go willy-nilly and expect the voodoo to work all the way through, but there's a certain balance. I've said it for years that it's a balance of math and art, a perfect balance of it. I wish I could say this is what I was intended to do. I have a math major and a fine arts major, and ultimately they work really well for me. But Michelle Moxley said she thinks it's the space in between math and art. And I said, that's heavy shit right there. I love that.
As only Michelle can say.
But there's just this, I think, embracing the fact that though it all works together, and embracing that there's some creativeness to the whole process, not just the steps, not just the original design, but there's some creative work on press, using the press as a brush in your toolbox instead of it being some type of limiting factor. If you got a 10 color press, you can't run 11 colors, but it's as simple as, but yellow and red make orange. So I can print 3 colors with 2 screens, and taking all of those kinds of things and
on a black shirt without the underbase, now you have brown.
And a bunch of colors in between.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that I've done a bunch of over the years is, and this doesn't work for every piece of art, but I like using in Photoshop, switching to the LAB mode and use the lightness channel to build the underbase, because it's a natural reflection of the luminosity of the color. And you can do a quick curve and bump up some stuff that you want, or, take down some other areas. And it's a great place to start. So by the way, Charles, in the Shirtlap Tribe Research Center, I did a whole video on that whole technique using I think it was a Chihuahua, it was a dog. And I was showing you how you can do that using the lightness channel.
I think, Lon, too, want to add to one of the things you said, trust your instincts, but also then if it doesn't work, make a decision. If it doesn't work, make another one.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into some topics. So our first one is just really recapping last year, which was an insane year, right? We'll all agree. So just how did you come out? I mean, I know you probably at the beginning of 2019, into 2019, beginning of 2020, probably set some goals like everybody else did. How'd you end up?
We laugh. because the alternative is to cry.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, we survived. And that was, priority number one. It was especially early on, it was very scary for us and for a lot of people. Our biggest client is closed for the second time now. They're trying to reopen. We just met with him and he says he can withstand it and they should be back, but we're at 10% of what their normal revenue is for the year. And they were a big client. And then I work on a lot of retainers with my consulting business, and the second quarter, starting April 1st, nobody paid. Of course, that's the whole point of a retainer, is to protect yourself. But at the same time, we approached it, and we know you're not going to pay for this, but we want to be there on the other side. Some are beginning to come back, and we're comfortable with that starting, but it's still, that piece of it's way down. So we ultimately, and I told myself I will not use the term pivot and I will not use the term new normal. We changed. We got smaller quickly. We got some help. We didn't think we were going to get any PPP, and I guess if everybody's got their own story, we applied and we worked through it. We don't have a small banker, and that's our mistake. We live in a small cowboy country town, and we do business with Chase, and I mean, that was a mistake in the grand scheme of things. And then all of a sudden, the money was in our account, and we went, "Oh shit!" So I think we managed it accidentally very well. Mm-hmm. And I know this wasn't necessarily the intent of the PPP. We cut our staff probably 50%. Maybe a little more, 55%. Immediately towards the end of March, when they shut down Colorado, we shut everybody down and sent everybody but our key people home. We didn't bring everybody back based on the PPP landing in our account, because I just didn't feel like, I know that was the intent, but now wait a minute, if this money can stretch out, at the very worst, it's going to be a low interest loan. At the best, it might be forgiven. And we're still wrestling how that's going to work. But then when they change the rules to 24 weeks instead of 8 weeks, and a lot of things continue to change, accidentally, we made some really good decisions, and that helped finance our key personnel to keep them employed. While we were dabbling in the mask business, dabbling in the personal protective equipment, we might be the only company in the country that was doing GSG masks and all-made masks at the same time.
Sure.
We do a lot of work with GSG, and we have a great relationship with them for 15 years. But we also have a relationship with Ryanette. We don't work with them in the same way, but the all mask was very popular early on, and with the relationship, we were able to get product, and a lot of people weren't. So we probably did. And, interestingly enough, we didn't think of it. One of our clients decided they were essential. It's a gas and oil company that has a bunch of convenience stores up and down California. And he said, "Hey, I want to do something for my people that have to work." The personal protection thing was just starting to become a problem with the health workers. So we bought 10,000 bandanas because he wanted them. It was his idea. And then we went, "Hey, I wonder if this is a thing." And working with some major infrastructure construction companies that happened to be my sister and brother-in-law, I went, "Hey, would you guys want to put your people that have to work behind bandanas?" "Oh yeah, send me 1,000, send me 1,000. I mean, so we hit the ground running quick with product that wasn't really even designed, but it was something. And that's what these clients said. "Hey, we need to do something. And I don't, what can we do?" And this was when everybody started cutting up their own t-shirts and trying to build their own masks. And, all of this was happening at the same time. And then we kind of transitioned into some of the manufactured masks. And our whole deal was, the only value we bring is the branding. Because people just wanted them blank. I don't want to sell them to you blank. What we can do is put your logo on them. We put them off the side, not right over the face, and try to mean, we still don't know what the fallout's going to be with all that. But at this point in our business, I don't care if I ever see another mask again the rest of my life. Now it's like this wrestling match. I give Jason a hard time because he doesn't like the masks we printed. He's got the N95 because they're the real masks or whatever. I'm like, at least put on an elephant mask while you're dealing with customers. Oh, I don't like that mask. I like this mask. Everybody's got their own kind of thing now. So it's just such a weird. But while that was happening, we picked up some decent full package additions with some of these construction companies because they all work with each other, and they all, they buy decking material and they buy roofing material and they buy all these things are kind of woven together. And that kind of turned into, we're going to do masks, but we also need Carhartts and we need hats and so we got kind of this bump in our business based on kind of targeting and some of this we talk about in Catalyst all the time, targeting the people that are working, the people that are essential, the people that are, working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, instead of looking at our existing, some of our, restaurant business per se, in our sporting business where teams gather and play each other and all that, of course is gone. So the full package extended further, and we've talked about this too, to bagging, not necessarily just because it's convenient, but maybe a customer thinks they're getting something a little more sterilized because they're individually bagged. So it was an easy upsell, and it wasn't 10 cents, 25 cents. It was, we'll bag them individually for $3. Would you like that? Oh, sure. That sounds great. Then I don't have to do it. And then also the drop shipping component. If you've got a group of 25 people that you're outfitting in Carhartts, instead of shipping the 25 pieces to the office and handing them out, we're dropping them to 25 different locations, and that's postage plus $3 more or whatever. So we were able to kind of take a $10 item and turn it into a $15 item, and certainly not by any kind of planning or strategic creation of this market. It found us. We accidentally have been able to leverage it, and we're not getting rich. I can tell you that our business is, the total numbers will close somewhere around 35-40% down in revenue, but our bottom line is very similar to last year. And based on that, obviously we're doing things a whole lot more efficiently with less bodies. And the 80-20 rule applying again here, we fired some customers. We just aren't going to work with things that take too many resources. And I think I reattached to that because all of a sudden I'm stacking shirts and I'm cleaning screens and I'm mixing ink and I'm setting up jobs. And at the end of the day, I don't have time to deal with a dog customer because I've got too many things on my plate. And my wife works with a business. She actually holds us all together. The same with her, same with Jason, same with Corey, same with our best people. Got to be doing what they do best. We don't have time to handle customers that we can't make any money with. So somehow we're still here and feeling good about surviving. And I think I may have mentioned this to you, Marshall, on the phone the other day. We were hiking in Breckenridge, my wife and I. I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything. I was
Keep going. Yeah.
And there was some level of clarity that, and I'm a spiritual Christian kind of guy, but I'm not this guy that can tell you God spoke to me. Some clarity came over me in that I'm starting to think well past survival. Where do we go now? What do we do moving forward? Yes, it is about making sure we cover payroll and we pay our bills, but it's forced us into managing cash better than we've ever managed it. And honestly, financially, we may be in better shape now than we were pre-pandemic. Just in the way we've been able to, our interest rates are lower. We're paying way less interest than we were prior. carefully managing the budget, carefully managing who's getting paid and who's not getting paid, communicating constantly with the vendors that we owe money, and just really, and my guys, I met with them every day to go through, try to be super transparent about what's going on with the loans we've applied for, what's going on with cash flow, and all of that made them super careful with how they manage things. The Great Reset, for lack of better terms, I think we'll be better for it. Have to reimagine our business compared to what it used to be, and it may end up being the best thing that could have happened to us financially. We're not killing it. We're not out of the woods, but we did survive it, being down 40%, and now we're reimagining what we're going to look like next year.
Well, that's good. So we have a question from Charles. It says, I saw you filming a video at an NBM show in Denver about 6 years ago, and I was being a star-stuck creeper watching you do the interview. You were talking about the importance of having nice boxes and not using the boxes the warehouse shipped blanks to you in, so your customer gets a good first impression. Do you guys add in any other packaging or promotional items into the boxes to give customers? And do you print branding on your boxes? So if you guys do them yourselves or use a company, I guess he ran out of space. So what do you guys do, Lon? I'm sure it's depending on their order, but what's the best practice here?
It does. And every point he just brought up, I'm looking in the mirror going, yeah, we should be doing all those things, and we don't do any of those things. We were doing those things, and then through some of this, we've sort of, wherever we can squeeze a penny, we have. But he makes a very good point in that is a really good first impression, especially, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this through the supply chain, the garbage box you're getting from S&S and Alpha and TS, unbelievable. They must have their own problems with their supply chains, because the boxes are just trash, and then we rebuild them and tape them up. And it probably, that's something that probably just tickles me to get back after that practice. We need to make good impressions with our customers, and that's our own personal branding. Because they're paying full package, we put elephants all over our boxes, and because it's not being resold, or we're not acting as a contractor, and we should be doing that. So I should listen to my own advice. Thank you for bringing that back up.
That's funny. That happens to everyone, I think.
Yeah. Lon, do you guys do promotional also in your business?
We really don't. We have a PPAI license, and we only do it if people bring it to us. We haven't gone out and tried to sell it, but if somebody says, hey, I need coffee cups with that, we can provide it. That's a competitive place. Again, I'm learning things I never thought I'd want to learn.
Well, it can be a competitive place, Lon, but I can tell you, because I deal with a lot of people in that space, it's like anything. So you're adding value to things because of your knowledge and your skill. If you're just an order taker like McDonald's, how many pins do you want? It's a commodity.
Sure.
Right? So it's like, what are we doing? And if you think about what the end result is and how you can bundle things, and especially if you're doing an online store, what is the natural thing? So if you're doing something for, let's say, a gym or a CrossFit trainer, it's natural to include towels, a water bottle, a tote bag, those type of things, which are all, promo, right? But they can all be branded, and they don't necessarily have to be branded by you. And so how are you working that in? And like right now you're doing full package, right? And so you could do a work from home kit or work out of the day kit or whatever, and that comes in a specially branded box, and inside is the water bottle and all this stuff. And you're working with the CrossFit trainer to send this stuff out to them with because maybe they're a TikTok influencer and they have 30,000 people following them because they're the Peloton guy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can be doing this stuff, and instead of just being T-shirts, you've got more to offer. So that's kind of the thinking here, I think.
Yeah, no, I would not disagree. We should be doing more of that as opportunity presents itself because of the full package approach. Yeah.
Right. So Charles has another question. Thanks, Charles, for all the questions. I've heard you say guys use a lot of Wilflex Fashion Soft base, which is something I've done a lot with. Is there a specific percentage ratio you guys like to mix into your inks? And do you pre-mix your buckets or mix a quantity for each job?
We drink Fashion Soft here. We buy it in drums because we use so much of it. The short answer to that is we have variable percentages all the way from, I'm not joking, 99% Fashion Soft all the way to just a few percent Fashion Soft. Yep. So it depends on the approach or what we're trying to accomplish. And that's pretty interesting you bring that up because Wilflex is doing a Facebook Live next week where we will be doing some Fashion Soft stuff.
Good timing, Charles.
Yeah. Some details of that, but it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. You just want to extend the inks, you want to just add a little bit of softener, or are you looking to do a tone-on-tone approach? We find it a great resource to simulate or emulate a lot of different textures and feels, where you can let the shirt do the influence and change the color that way. And we'll go over some more details on that next week.
So Ray, if you're watching, if you've got a link for that, why don't you throw it into the comments and everybody can get registered or whatever you're doing. So one of the things that I've done a lot is, you might have $30,000, $40,000 of ink sitting on your shelf, and these are Pantone colors that you mix for a job and you'll never use again because they've been sitting there forever. So a good thing is to make what I call smoke ink, which you can take a 5-gallon bucket and you can take those blues and purples and browns and forest greens or whatever, nothing with pastel or white in it, just the dark kind of weird colors, and throw it in there, and then put about the same quantity of black and stir it up, and that makes what I call kind of a crappy black or whatever. And then you can take about the same quantity of Fashion Soft base and mix that together, and that makes this smoke ink. And so you're using all of your old ink up, and you're also going to reduce it so it becomes translucent. And this makes the absolute best drop shadow you've ever seen ever. And the other cool thing is if you print it on a red shirt, it looks maroon. If you print it on a royal shirt, it looks navy. If you print it on a white shirt, it looks gray. And so it just kind of shades that shirt color. And so you can do a lot of really cool things without having to actually have an ink change on the screen. You can have different effects for a whole line of stuff, and it's just an easy thing. And so I've used that like forever in the shops that I've run. Yep. All right, here we go. So Cindy says, I'd rather get my product than have all the fluff. I am sure it's nice to get a note, candy, or whatever, but why spend the extra time you end up charging the customer for? I think that's in the packaging thing.
Yep.
And then here's another question from Charles. When you guys print the show shirts, your print cards typically indicate use a Newman mesh around 52 newtons. Do you always use Newman mesh in production, or do you guys typically use something else? And do you have a standardized Newton level you use for your screens in production?
We do work for Stress Devices, who is Newman roller mesh. We work for Murakami, which is the S-thread mesh, and we do work for CFAR, which is more your standard. They have S-threads or thin threads as well, but we have 3 different tension levels, and we actually, all our screens are the same width, but we have different height lengths. So our 31s are all Murakami that we run between, I guess our target is 28, and we run between 25 and 30 on those. And then our T-thread mesh CFAR goes on 33-inch frames, and those are typically at the 35 range, and we keep those between 32 and 38. And then the Newman mesh is our target is 50, so between 45 and 55 on those, and those are on 36-inch frames. So because we have to do work for all three of them, all of our math changes depending on which ones we're using for which types of jobs, and they all have their benefit. And it's all relative. So if you think about the math again in the process, your off contact distance is dictated by your tension level, which also dictates your squeegee pressure. So the Murakami mesh is going to be a little bit higher off contact, a little bit more pressure, but the open area is going to let it drop through more. The high tension mesh will be really tight because it's almost like printing through a plate. Your off contact distance is really tight and your squeegee pressure really light. So it's all kind of relative, and we have settings for that on our press depending on which screens we're going to be using for which application. And depending on who we happen to be working for, those might be most of the screens that are in production at the moment.
And Lon, I think it's good to let everybody know when you are printing shirts like that for SGIA and stuff, those are sponsors there.
Yeah.
So not all.
My choices would be based on what I've grown up doing, and I'm still not completely grown up. Just ask my wife. And I have a soft spot or a place in my heart for each of those manufacturers because they've all been very good to us, and all of them work very well for the applications they're designed for. So it's just a relative thing. You can't run Murakami S-thread mesh at 45 newtons, but you can't run stretch devices Newman roller mesh at 25 newtons. So it's a relative thing, and it's all part of the math.
Yep.
Great. And Dan says you can catch the soft base printing by liking Aviant Specialty Inc.'s Facebook page or Ray Smith's page, but make sure you watch the video after Marshall's live show or he'll get mad. We'll post noon on Fridays. That's exactly right, Dan.
Why is that, guys? Go to 1 o'clock.
Right. And then Sam says, sorry I'm late. That's okay. We will forgive you. And Grant says, Jane Winters is a saint.
That's Lon's wife.
I would agree with that.
She is amazing.
So let's get to the next thing. Is really about what are we doing this year, Lon? So you're planning what's going on. What are you thinking about your shop more than, where you're going to be at a trade show? So what are you thinking about your business that you're changing right now to add more revenue or print for better customers? What are you doing?
We are in the sort of, I mentioned that I finally felt some level of clarity that I could start thinking about post-survival. Got to survive first before anything post-survival matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've gathered some clarity. We've made some pretty hard personnel / structural changes early this year. And we're trying to reimagine at this stage what the model looks like based on some of our peers and friends in the business success. And some of that is, the fulfillment part of it that I mentioned earlier, taking some of our existing customers and adding the dropship individual. I was talking to a good friend that the guys at Culture Studio, the big rock and roll printers, big music printers, brand printers, that of course when everything shut down, they were scared just like everybody else because nobody's going to a Metallica show with 80,000 people. And they said, that the model is ever changing, but the model quickly went because Metallica has resources that their merch outlets online became pretty substantial. So their model went to simplify it, from sending truckloads to Mile High Stadium to drop shipping all over the world, X number of pieces, changing their model substantially, but they're buying new equipment and they seem to have recovered very well. And so with, rock and roll doesn't go away. Music doesn't go away. We just can't necessarily go see them live for now. And to a smaller scale, that's where I see a lot of opportunity. Of course, it requires some space. It requires some workflow adjustments, software tracking and I'm talking about the back end right now, but on the front end, we have to get more e-commerce driven. And right now we're sort of reimagining it. We have a couple of lines that are retail. We have stores and platform with one's called Tea Towels. My wife's kind of old school flour sack. Your grandmother or your mother would absolutely know what I'm talking about. There's a story behind it. It's the best towel that you'd ever use to dry your Christmas crystal. The problem was they were made out of old flour sacks, so they were kind of ugly. You hung your pretty towels out, and then when you got to doing the crystal, you got out the flour sack. So we've taken flour sack type of material and cleaned it all up, and then put full color DTG or screen print, depending on the number of pieces, to be displayed. So not only is it functional, they're beautiful, and it's a mostly grandma or your mother would know exactly. Oh, that's my favorite towel. Absolutely. But they're good for cleaning guns, I understand. So
all right.
Anyway,
you gotta make a gun line.
That's an online retail product, and then my Jason's the driving force behind our Christian Edge brand, which is kind of a combobulation of our outreach as well as some retail garment line as well. And we have put about this much effort into both of them, and they both are doing better than they've ever done. So the idea for us is when you take that model, we're going to put some resources towards it, and that's time, effort, money, learning this, learning that, maybe hiring out pieces and parts, and try to grow that piece of our business, because Janie's tea towel business did very well over the holidays, and we didn't put a single penny or effort into other than, raising the Christmas towels to the top of the Etsy store. But other than that, we hadn't put a lot of effort into it. So we know there's opportunity there. We've talked to a lot of our friends that are like Tom, building stores constantly, and where the revenue, and that's going back to your first thought or observation, Alan, coming out of that conference early on. We knew we had to go there, but we were so busy being busy. So those are organizational reimagination. We're just now trying to put that all into real time, at least spreadsheets. We need to do this part first, and then that part, and then because we've been around with these, but we don't know what we're doing, and the shotgun effect or dropping flyers off a building doesn't make any sense. So figuring out how to take the store platforms, social media, the e-commerce component, all those things, and trying to be more in that business. We bought an additional DTG this last year during all this, knowing that we need to go there, and it was mostly to keep up with the tea towels, just because they did much better. Go to teatowels.com, and that's TEE. Get it?
Awesome.
And so, all right, so I take it this is you making early steps into the whole print on demand game.
It is. It is, and you guys know this as well as anybody, and some people on the call on the show may know more about it as well. There's a stigma with DTG, and many of us that have bought that one-off Metallica shirt or whatever it might be, when you receive it and you're a screen printer, you go, "Oh my God, this is horrible." And I worked with a few print-on-demand people that had DTG with screen print. I was working with them on the screen print side, of course, and they shrugged their shoulders and go, "Yeah, we know it looks like shit, and we're going to send it anyway because we only get 2% return or whatever the numbers are." Mm-hmm. So I think there's opportunity to do DTG right. I don't have the skill set to do that. I'm not saying I'm going to do it better than everybody else. But I do think that DTG, there's so much of it that isn't so great that I'll bet there's opportunity for, I don't know whether it's the equipment or it's the pre-treat piece of it or it's limiting. I think sometimes if you order a red Under Armour shirt and expect a full color photograph of your baby's shower or whatever, it's a red Under Armour garment, and DTG is probably not the best way to go.
Yeah. Right.
So there's education opportunities, or the buyers got to understand what's going on. But that mass customization is a thing that we need to be in if we want to make any money in this business. So we're taking baby steps. I always say you got to walk before you run, you got to crawl before you walk, and we're kind of at that crawling stage.
Right.
I like it, Lon, because you told me, you said, yeah, we're pretty far behind everybody in the game, but hey, at least you're in the game.
Well, that's been, I can't work on the e-commerce part of things if I'm cleaning screens, but is what has been necessary to be where we're at. And I'm okay with that. And to be honest, it was nice to reconnect and see some of the pitfalls or shortcomings, and instead of telling everybody what they should be doing, I got to get on a plane, I'm out of here because I got to go tell somebody else what they're doing. To actually sit in it and go, wow, why are we doing it this way? We need to change this part or portion, or we need to get more of this or more of that. So, and it's been good to reconnect, I think, with Jason. He and I are really close, but when you don't spend any time together, you drift apart. So I think that's been good for both of us to kind of reconnect on some of the things that attracted us to each other in the first place, to work together as long as we have.
So we have some questions, so let's not ignore them. So Matt says, this is not the current topic, but what I've seen of your company, you promote higher end quality artwork and methods at trade shows and on your Facebook page. How do you make this work in an industry known for cheap clip art solutions and the current trend of text-only simple designs?
Good question. I've always said if you can do the hard stuff, then the easy stuff, it may be small, and the difference between what we might call a one color print and somebody else might call a one color print, to the average customer may not be able to see a difference. But I think there's and this is a cliche thing to say, I think I shared it with Alan the other day, all advanced techniques are about doing the basics really well. So if you can do the 14 color sim process and the high density this and that, and you put all that stuff together in your arsenal, your basic printing is that much better and that much more productive. You can do it faster, you can do it better, and an ultra soft one color black on a light colored t-shirt is got a higher perceived value than somebody running a $10 bucket ink through a 110 mesh. From here to the wall, you can't see any difference, but the wearer is going to like that softer, better drape, better. So that as you get simpler, the differences are smaller, but I think there's still a difference. And at this stage, I always say I've been doing this for well over 30 years. It's too late to be a doctor. I better get pretty good at this. And we've worked hard at doing the difficult stuff. We can't go backwards now and just be like everybody else, I guess. That's not a great answer, but it's all I got. It's how we grew up.
I would think, here's the other thing is, who is your customer you're appealing to? So, I'm from the South. I'm from Florida. To me, any type of soda is a Coke. I don't care what it is. It's just hand in the fish cooler, hand me a Coke. It could be a Sprite or a 7-Up or whatever. It's always a Coke. But if you hand me a Pepsi, I am not drinking that. Right? I don't. And so when I'm in a restaurant and they go, "Hey, I'd like a Coke," and they go, "Is Pepsi okay?" No, it's never okay. I'll have a water. Right? It's like one of these things where I'm a Coke drinker and I like Coke. That's my, especially if there's some rum around, But it's one of these things where I'm only going to appeal to Coke drinkers, and that's how you think about your marketing, right? So why worry about the Pepsi folks? And so if you are doing and producing high-end illustrations and everything, your marketing and your customer base should be people who want that, not the simple clip art stuff. And so those folks don't appreciate it. They won't buy it. They're never going to do it just because that's not how they think. So why even waste your time doing that? So I would say find better customers. That should be your effort that need higher end art and appreciate it, because you don't see Guy Harvey doing one color whatever, right? He's always going to do his fish stuff, right? So it's like, so think about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. I think that could be a better way for you to think about your direction and your customer journey.
And Lon, I think in your own print shop too, while we all know the award-winning stuff and the cool special effects stuff, as a printer, I've been to your shop and you're still doing stuff for 144 shirts for the local church camp or VBS and stuff. And that's,
I mean, we are known for that, and there's something that there's a leverage point to that. Google us, find out we're credible to do your one color. And the model has changed a lot over the years, and it's not exactly how we envisioned it. We've had to be flexible and change things and move away from what we used to do and do it. Our intention was maybe we don't ever want to be a job shop. I don't ever want to compete on price alone. And that's even some of the things we're learning in some of the sales training and marketing training. That's a game changer. But I have learned that the quality isn't enough. You can't leverage that alone. The experience and all those things that I'm learning through trying to figure out this whole sales and marketing piece of it. But the reputation is a leverage point. So, we get an opportunity with a new client that mostly does, I always use Bob's Towing. Poor Bob's Towing. It's a tough rap. But there's a credibility factor to that. And we do 25% of our work is probably what I'd say is sort of difficult, from special effects to sim process to 4-color process, whatever those more difficult approaches are. But a good 50 to 75% of our other work isn't. But the customer knows we can when they get to that situation. And it goes beyond, we're known for our screen print, but we've also moved into the DTG, we've been doing embroidery for about 15 years, but you learn how to take what we maybe learned earlier in screen print and apply it to embroidery. There's, embroidery is more of an automated approach, but the details that you can dial into your digitizing to make it A, so faster and more efficiently, but B, look better. I mean, there's a reason, one digitizer's work looks better than another digitizer's work. So all those kinds of things are they're all part of what I think is our leverage point, because that's where we're at now. So.
So Matt also asked, do you contract out most of your higher end art, or is that in-house? If both, how do you decide?
We do both, and we do that with digitizing as well. There's, especially now, during our difficult time of having to cut people, we kept our very best people, but our art department is much smaller than it was. So, and like the business is always, it's, peaks and valleys. And when we get really slammed, we have to farm out some. So because the talent level inside our building is at one point, we try to keep the more difficult, more complicated, more critical jobs in-house, and we'll farm out. Shameless plug for my buddy Nick at Graphics Resource. They're some of the best digitizing folks we've ever used, compared to, and we've used a lot of them. Their stuff sews better, it looks better, and I like Nick, so it's easy to give him a call. But that type of resource, and then on the vectorizing side of things, I have our guys look at it and I say, if it's going to take you more than 15 minutes, send it out. Now the key to that is you get it back, and here's another technical term, you got to tweak it, whether it's digitizing or you're just using a vectorized service. All the things that make you a great printer or a great sewer, as the case may be, are all the little things you do to the underbase, the chokes and the gutters and the stuff you do to compensate to make it work even better on press. Because these guys, as good as they may be, they're running through buttons and automation as much as they can, and they're not connected to our specific process. So if we send out a vectorized file, then we usually will dump their underbase and make our own underbase with whatever ideas, halftone under this and gutter under that and those kinds of things. So we rarely will use an automated underbase.
I know Daryl Garcia, and he uses Graphic Source.
Yep.
And one of the things he's done is specifically talked about exactly how I want that file set up, so he doesn't have to tweak it when it comes back, because he's trained the crew that, they hooked him up with exactly how he wants things.
Yeah, and they are teachable for sure, especially once you get because a lot of times they'll assign a specific person or a specific couple of people to your account, so you can kind of start to work with them on what you want. But that's just that's the customization nature of what we do, and maybe it's ego, or maybe it's just nobody can do it as well as I can. But
That's a myth.
Yeah.
But we're not talking spending 15 minutes on something. We're talking, a few minutes.
Yeah, right.
And it might be programming in a couple of more trims, or taking out a couple that we decide if we're sewing on black, we can leave those trims off, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So John says, I love getting a JPEG saved as a PDF named Vector. That's pretty funny. And then Greg says, hey, Greg, how are you? Says, hard choices are sometimes forced upon us by circumstances. What we can do with choices is relevant to our success or failure. Awesome point.
Well said.
And Daryl says, great show today. Appreciate you guys. Make it a great weekend. Thanks, Daryl. And Cindy says, it's lunchtime in Texas. Always a great show. I learned something from every show. Thank you, Lon, for great information. Thank you, Marshall and Alan. We appreciate you, Cindy. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And so we're already over a little bit. So before we go, Lon, do you have any last minute, anything you'd like to share with everybody on the face of the earth that's watching? What's their best tip or something you can give them?
I would just say, I think that every one of us is going through something different, but it's something. And I think I learned this even with my own staff as I was trying to share with them our struggles and trying to be transparent with our P&Ls and how the loan applications were going. And I got upset because I felt like they didn't care. That didn't matter, that I'm borrowing money to pay their salaries.
Mm-hmm.
But as I stepped back from that, they're going through something completely different than I'm going through. And each one of us has that on the inside. And that's, right now with the pandemic and the virus itself, but it's also the politics of the virus. And then it's the politics and the news and it's a crazy hard time for everybody. But I would say things, and this is kind of helping me, you can't do much about what you can't do much about. It sounds stupid, but it's like control the things you can, do something about the things you can control, do the best you can, work on things like your spirituality, your relationship with your spouse, all the things that, for me, I haven't been home like this since I was 21 years old. And apparently back then I fell in love with some woman named Jane, and we like each other, and we kind of forgot that we did, or maybe we just didn't see each other that much. And it's been really great to have, and I think the advice is just embrace the opportunity for the good stuff that has come out of this. And I think I told Marshall before we started chatting, I'll never travel near as much as I did before. I'll travel, and I think starting February we're going to get a few things on the books, but I'm not doing that. I'm gonna enjoy the time and the relationships that I have, and it's, hang in there. Everybody's got to hang in there. Things are getting better. We know we're on the other side of all this. Ultimately, the vaccine's on its way. Stay as positive as you can. What did they're saying about the president? The words matter. Yeah. So as you're talking to folks, just try to think things through as far as keeping things positive, because that's all we can control is our own attitude. So.
Yep, we know our own Richard Greaves. If you didn't see, posted he got the vaccine this week. So,
yes, I heard that.
That's great.
That's great. Lon, before we leave, how would people get in touch with you? Are you okay with anybody reaching out?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
In fact, the way everything works these days, if you can check us out at graphicelephants.com, or my email is lon@graphicelephants.com, and reach out anytime. I think, and just to compliment you guys, these kinds of things that we're doing as a community, I think are important. So thanks for doing it, and keep up that good work. I think all of these things that people can be a part of, it helps us remain a community, and I think that's pretty critical. I may mention I got a call from Brett on Friday night. He and his wife and I talked for like 2 hours and bullshit about everything. And I think those kinds of things, if we can stay connected in other ways or the best we can, it's important. So keep up the good work. Thanks for doing this stuff.
And I think that's all of us in the industry. I know, Lon, you and I have talked through the pandemic, hey, how you doing? How are we holding up? Marshall and I talk all the time. I've gotten emails and calls. Those mean a lot. That's the community of our business.
Yep.
Shirts aside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Who's our guest next week, Alan? Somebody I think.
Alex Mamister from Easy Way Systems. So I'm real excited. Not only is Alex my boss, and he's forced me to have him on the show. No, he's not. I asked him, and he agreed. Lon knows him very well. Alex spent, I think, 14 years in M&R, came to Easy Way, is the director of sales, does international, but is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to auto reclaim, direct to screen, and just a great guy to have on. So I'm real excited to have him on. I just came off the road. We traveled together this past week, and extremely excited. And you guys know he's been on here lurking at times and has posted. So
are we going to make fun of his mustache?
The porn star stash. Everybody else does. I think we would be remiss not to. You can. I can. I'm going to defend him and go, I can't believe that. But yeah, everybody else does. So do it.
All right. Well, hey, time to go. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. And if we can do anything to help you, please reach out.
Absolutely. Lon, hang with us a little bit.